Hey YouTube, it's your boy Widgie here, coming at you with something a little bit different on my channel, because normally I do Age of Empires 3 and other video game related stuff, but today I'm going to be showing you why and giving you 5 reasons as to why you should be moving away from Streamlabs OBS to OBS Studio. Now this is really important for small time content creators and streamers, because if you do want to get started with streaming, I suggest you go straight to OBS and not to Streamlabs. Just to give you some background, I've been streaming with Streamlabs OBS now for at least 2 or 3 years, and since I decided to come back over to OBS Studio, it's just insane. It's just like night and day. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. You guys know what to do to support the channel, and if you want to catch me streaming, you can catch me on Twitch at Widgie1. Let's do this. So the first thing on my list is responsiveness. Now this is something you're just going to have to sort of feel. So if you've never really used Streamlabs OBS, you're not going to really notice a huge difference, because you're just going to be using OBS Studio straight from the start and you're not going to really notice it. But if you're moving from Streamlabs OBS and you're coming over to OBS Studio, then you are going to notice the difference just in loading up the application itself, streaming, also recording and stuff like that. The way that it transmits over to Twitch and any other sort of platform that you're using when you're streaming, it's just super responsive, and it doesn't use as much of your processing power and CPU usage as Streamlabs OBS. Now obviously there's not a huge difference and disparity between the two, but this is just something that I've noticed since I've moved over. So let me know down in the comments below if you agree with me on that. But without further ado, let's jump into number 2. So number 2 is versatility. So I've got to say, without a shadow of a doubt, there is so much versatility in OBS. It's way more versatile than it is compared to Streamlabs OBS, and the reason for that is because you can do so much with the program. It's essentially like just an empty sort of like basic framework, and you can sort of do whatever you want with it. You can just modify it so much, whereas Streamlabs OBS confines you within Streamlabs. So within that branding and that sort of spin-off of OBS, yes, it's more user-friendly and it appears more user-friendly, and yeah, don't get me wrong, it definitely is, especially for sort of new time streamers. But that's why I sort of suggest is just trying to put more effort into OBS, of trying to understand it, watching guides, YouTube videos. There's tons out there, because when you start to get to grips with the basics of it, you start to understand how versatile the program is, especially compared to Streamlabs OBS if you've been using that in the past. So without further ado, let's get on to number 3. So number 3 is plugins. So plugins is a huge one, and this is pretty much going to smash it out the park compared to the other 4, because plugins is insane for OBS Studio. So if you don't know, with Streamlabs you cannot use sort of custom made plugins or anything like that. It does not permit you to use them. So as I said before in number 2, you have to go onto the Streamlabs site, and you can only use their applications and stuff like that. And I think you also have to pay for extra sort of plugins and applications that you can only use on Streamlabs. But with OBS, you can go into like the OBS forum. People develop tons of things to just boost the sort of engagement with your viewers on Twitch. Tons of things that you can do. So for example, on my streaming platform, on my stream, sorry, I have like a music sort of slider. So it has like all like the little sort of bars going up and down like an equalizer. So you can see like on Monster Cat, for example, you have it where the bars go up with all the music. So I have that, for example. You can obviously get a chat box put in, but you can get tons and tons more. So for example, like you can really get engagement with your audience. They can sort of put commands in. Those commands can change things on your stream. So it makes it super interactive. And trust me, that is just the tip of the iceberg. And also installing these plugins is not really that difficult. You just download it, drag it into the folder, restart OBS, and boom, it should be there. And if you have any issues, there's a forum there for you straight away. So definitely number 3, plugins, is a huge one. So without further ado, let's move on to number 4. So number 4 is simply the UI. Now I just prefer the UI on OBS. I think it's very, very streamlined, and also the fact that you can change so much. You can move OBS around, you can move all the panels around, you can do whatever you want, you can have it in certain like position that you want. And I feel like with Streamlabs OBS, it's just a little bit confined. Yes, you can move stuff around, but just not as much as you can with OBS. As I say, it's just really, really sort of raw form of of Streamlabs. That's what I think OBS is. It's like a raw form of it. And you can just sort of move everything around. You can change it to how you want. Everything's really accessible. It just looks nice and clean. It doesn't look like cluttered at all. And if it does, you can easily do certain things to change the UI to how you want. And as I say, if you want to know how to do that, there's countless videos and guides on trying to make the UI as user-friendly as possible. And once you're there, it's just way better than Streamlabs. You know, in my personal opinion, it's just way better. So without further ado, let's get on to the final, number 5. So the final reason as to why you should move from Streamlabs OBS or just use OBS entirely if you've never touched Streamlabs OBS, and that is the open source feel. Now, I've obviously been mentioning this in the previous 4 points. I've sort of been mentioning it, that OBS just has that open source feel. It just feels like it's the framework. It's just the basis. It's the basic sort of ingredients. And then once you get that understanding, you can just mix all those ingredients up and just create something insane, and just an insane stream that's unique, and just really engaging for your audience and for yourself as well, because you know OBS gives you a lot of information as you're streaming, telling you everything. Like down here I've got CPU usage, the disk space that I've got available. So if I'm recording, I'm going to need to know, okay, maybe I should stop the recording if I don't have a lot of disk space. You've obviously got your FPS, you've got any frames missed during like the rendering lag or skipped frames. It tells you your bit rate. It gives you a lot of information. Now Streamlabs gives you this, but it only gives you 4 or 5 different metrics, whereas OBS can give you 10, 15 different metrics of what you need to see. So that's just an example of how I think that this is, you know, just a lot more of an open source feel. And it's just going to take you a little bit of time to get used to OBS. But trust me, when you do, the returns are way better than Streamlabs, in my opinion, of course. Now guys, that's going to wrap up this quick video. So if you really enjoyed this and you're going to move over to OBS Studio, let me know down in the comments below. If you've never streamed before or never created any content and you thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go, let me know down below as well. And if you disagree with me, and if you think that Streamlabs is still good for you and the reasons why, then yeah, I really want to know. But thank you very much guys for watching this video. I really appreciate it. You guys know what to do to support the channel. And as I mentioned at the start, you can catch me streaming on Twitch at Widgie1 using that good old OBS Studio. So I'll catch you guys later.